have to confess it's difficult to take advice from the two members I served with, Reed Ribble and Ileana. For Pete's sakes, this is a weaker institution because you all left. And I say that sincerely, so often I lose the folks that were modeling the good behavior. I think about you on the Rules Committee, Ileana. You could skewer somebody with the facts like nobody's business, but you did it in the way that made me want to run up and hug you afterwards, and they wanted to run up and hug you too. I don't have that many models, and I sometimes worry because we don't have that frame of reference, we are targeting the wrong issues. For example, we need more field hearings, but we need to be in D.C. more often together. We need to be in relationship with one another, so we need to have more committee structure. But if folks want to start to telecommute in from time to time, that'd be fine too. I don't remember the kind and gentle Mr. Davis and Mr. Frost. I remember the NRCC chairman and the DCCC chairman going hard every day. For Pete's sakes, the 17th Amendment was passed because we all thought everybody in Congress was on the take anyway. And so I'm not sure what's new and what's not. So I want to start small and I want to go big. I dislike the franking privilege. Half my constituents think it's free, and so they skewer me for not spending their money. The other half think it's free, and so they're not holding me accountable for spending their money, since we are actually paying for all of it. I wasn't here for the stamp scandal, though. For those of you with more experience than I, is there any reason that we can't just have a postage paid like every small business in my district does, stamp on my envelope? Any institutional reason why I need to pretend that I can't find a local post office or a...
That Mr. Fazio was chairman of the Franking Commission at one point, and he may be the best person to answer that.
Sorry, you threw that ball to me.
The rules of the Franking Commission I support. I don't want partisan tripe going out the door on the taxpayer's dime. I want to end the illusion that members of Congress sign mail and send it for free, because they don't, in the name of restoring trust in the institution.
Actually, I think it's frankly overrated as a benefit these days. It used to be a lot more important when people stood waiting for their mail to come every day. Right. Now I don't think it matters as much. It's a vestige of tradition, past.
I put that on the easy end of the spectrum. Martin?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I have to ask to be excused. I have a course to teach at GW, and I would love to continue this on infinitum, but I must ask to be.
Hold your book up once again, Martin.
Yeah.
The course is Parties and Elections.
We're grateful for your participation. Thank you.
I want to make sure the Frost filibuster does not deduct from my time, Mr.
Exactly,
Chairman,
yeah.
there. The thinking about committees working better, and we all agree on that, with the exception of the Dreyer effort in 1994 and 5 that reduced committee sizes. Every leadership I've seen has increased committee sizes, and as a result made things harder because we have some institutional knowledge and committee chairman there. Tell me about the levers that we would pull to shrink those committees, if you believe, as I do, that committees would be more effective if there were 30 of us instead of 90 of us.
So when the 1994 class came in, I ended up on a committee that took the old Post Office and Civil Service Committee, the old DC Committee, and Government Ops, and moved them into one committee. Nobody still wanted to be on it, except for me, because I was in the Washington suburbs. It made a lot of sense. But they did a lot of that. But after that time, we created a Homeland Security Committee because they couldn't decide whether me or Chris Cox should share the committee, so they gave us both the committee. And right now, it's just the bottom line, you make more spots you can give members because you don't have earmarks anymore. So what else can you give them but a committee assignment? And I think that's how it's grown.
And good that they grew the committee to get Ileana on it in that day. But at some point, there has to be a reversal. Vic, do you see a possibility? Have you seen a successful effort?
I just think we need to make sure that members don't have too many committees and too many subcommittees, because they can't really do the job when they're spread that thin. So I think there's been, because people need committees to run for re-election on, it's proliferated beyond what I think is reasonable. We need to be expert in the House, particularly in the work of our committees. We need to spend more time with our committees, and we can't be on too many. And the scheduling, as Tim Romer said, could be coordinated technology can help this to make people in attendance more likely.
I worry that we might spend too much time talking about form over function. I'm thinking about Reed Ribble, I'm thinking about biennial budgeting, and I'm thinking about truck weights, two issues that talented people had tried to move, like David Dreyer and biennial budgeting, couldn't do it. You moved it through force of personality on both sides of the aisle and got huge bipartisan buy-in. I never saw a proposal Ileana introduced that didn't end up getting more than 218 co-sponsors on it. At some point, if you want to be an effective member in the institution as it exists today, you can do it. If you want to be transparent and not worry about what the blogs say about you, you can do it. We spend a lot of time trying to talk about how to improve the institution. At some point, I need members who want to improve the institution, not because we need to change the rules, but because we need to model the behavior that we want our new members to follow. How certain are you that we have systemic problems and that we just don't have enough members who are willing to do the heavy lifting? I don't know a member who wants to be successful and can't do it. I know a lot of members who aren't successful and are looking for somebody to blame for it.
Down to leadership of committees. I look up here at Dave Camp. Dave Camp put a tax bill together with every member of his committee on both sides of the aisle working on subsets. They worked across the aisle on every issue in the revenue code. They came up with a revenue-neutral bill that was very reminiscent of what we passed in the 80s on a bipartisan, bicameral basis. And yet, we had a tax bill last year, and I'm not trying to be partisan about it. The members of the committee, even the majority members of the committee, didn't know it was in the bill until they voted on it the next day. That is a complete fiasco when it comes to involvement of members in making quality committee work. It comes down to the leadership of committees organizing so that their members are fully engaged.
Congressman?
Mr. Romer?
I think it's a combination of things as well. I think it's not only leadership and courage and having mentors that you can go to, like you just mentioned. Two of my mentors here, one in the House, Lee Hamilton from Indiana, one in the Senate, Dick Lugar, a Republican on the Senate side, were people that I had lunch with on a regular basis, that gave me advice as mentors, that helped me legislatively when we agreed on issues to get things done. And I would just say, to your point, I do also think that there are very, very serious systemic issues here that have changed even in the last 10 years since I've left, that make it harder for these two great people that you've mentioned. They might be able to get co-sponsors on a bill, but could they get it through the House? Could they get it through the Senate? Could they get it signed by the President? We lived in a time here where we built coalitions of Republicans and Democrats working across the aisle, where getting that pen in the Rose Garden and getting something accomplished for your home state, you could truly achieve. And I think that's much, much more difficult today, and a lot of that is systemic.
And Mr. Woodall, are you retiring after this term?
There are already two members of the Rules Committee on this panel. I'd like to be on the former members
Oh, my
panel next time.
goodness.
We've got him slated for next
Gosh.
time. I want to make sure we get to all of our members, so
Thank you,
with
Mr.
that, you bet. I gave you a little extra time since you offended Martin Frost so bad he left.